I only knew my sister and I were the disposable villains of the story after my awakening. To steer us away from our tragic canon ending, whenever my sister provoked the heroine, I'd scramble right behind her, doing frantic damage control. When my sister stole the heroine's spot as valedictorian, I'd grovel to the heroine. I'm so sorry. My sister totally cheated. I'll go chew her out right now. When my sister intercepted a love letter from the hero, I'd cry a river. She's illiterate. She must have thought it was a threat. Oh God, what a mess. When my sister slapped the heroine across the face, my world went dark. I gritted my teeth and said, here's the thing. I have a crush on you, and my sister found out. At that, the heroine, who is always so cool and distant, suddenly looked at me. Her eyes lit up. Really? My sister was the vicious side character, and I was the main villain's lackey. At first, I didn't buy it. Please. I was a regular Adonis, a Rhodes Scholar in the making. And my sister? She had the kind of beauty that could launch 1,000 ships. Helen of Troy meets a supermodel. In any story, she should have been the main character, right? That was until the actual heroine transferred to our school. Seraphina Vance. She wore one of those plaid private school skirts, nailing this whole innocent but knows it vibe. Her brows were like crescent moons, her eyes like drifting clouds. She walked to the blackboard and wrote her name with an unhurried grace. I looked at Seraphina, then at my sister Megan. Back to Seraphina, back to Megan. Okay, yeah, my sister was missing something. Maybe my staring was too intense because Seraphina glanced over. The moment our eyes met, my heart hammered against my ribs like it was about to quit. Something was stirring deep inside me. Turns out it was my wallet. When I snapped back to reality, I'd already pulled it out and was counting my dwindling allowance. $500. A little low. I leaned over and poked my sister. Hey sis, I whispered. I think I want to sponsor someone. What do you think? She whispered back. I think I want to smack you. What do you think? TCH. Before I could shoot back a retort, our homeroom teacher, Ms. Diaz, slammed her hand on the blackboard twice. Jacob Miller. Megan Miller. Something you'd like to share with the class. My sister and I ducked our heads in unison. But Ms. Diaz wasn't letting us off the hook. She turned to Seraphina with a smile. We don't have a seat for you yet, do we? You know what? Why don't you sit next to Jacob? And Megan, you can move up here, next to the podium. That should keep you two from talking all day. What? The heroine had barely arrived, and my sister had already lost her deskmate? And what a great deskmate I was. I was heartbroken. It was all my fault. I'd been so mesmerized by a pretty face that I'd fast-tracked their first confrontation. After class, my sister sauntered over to Seraphina's desk, hands on her hips in a pose of pure theatrical sass. Her lips curled. Well. Here we go. My cannon fodder sister was already picking a fight with the heroine. Seraphina had been leaning on her hand, half asleep, but now her brow furrowed as she gave Megan a weary look. The tension in the air crackled, thick with the smell of gunpowder. In the next second, I took a deep breath and declared, loud and clear, Sis, I know you have issues, but you can't just stand there making weird noises at people. Megan's face turned beet red. What? Jacob, who said I was going to do anything? Then what were you doing? I asked. She stammered, I was just. She choked on her words, then just scoffed and stormed away. As I let out a sigh of relief, I noticed Seraphina studying me with a thoughtful expression. Hey, new kid, I started. Sorry about my sister. I tapped my head with a pained look. Got a few screws loose, you know. Hope you don't mind. Sorry, sis. Your dignity is a small price to pay for our survival. Seraphina just blinked, and I couldn't tell if she bought it or not. She turned back to her book. I carefully pulled a novel out of my backpack. It had literally fallen out of the sky and tripped me on my way out the door this morning. After cursing it out for a solid minute, I picked it up and realized something was off. First, the villains in the book had the exact same names as me and my sister. Second, every time my character appeared, he came with a 10,000-word description of his effortless charisma and how his every move created a magnetic field of pure, uncut swagger that made every girl, except the heroine, of course, want to throw themselves at him. Well, that part had to be about me. No doubt about it. Unfortunately, I'd only gotten 2 pages in before the bell rang, so I had to hide it under my textbook. The me and Megan in this book were pure evil. I was into arson and framing the hero. She was into jealousy-fueled kidnappings of the heroine. In the end, we were both sent to prison. If we weren't different genders, we'd probably have ended up with bunk beds. I was getting into it, engrossed, when I turned a page. The book said the hero and heroine grew up in the same orphanage. They were beaten constantly, barely fed, and relied on each other as their only lifeline. Later, they were adopted by different families, and things got a little better. But only a little. Seraphina's adoptive mother was a control freak. She wasn't allowed to lock her door, and the woman checked her phone every single day. If Serafina so much as talked to someone for too long, her mom would storm into the school to make a scene. She had systematically forced Serafina into a shell, and it wasn't until years later, with the hero's help, that she finally started to heal. So, Serafina's life was that miserable, and I was a total monster to her, bullying her. Damn, I really had the whole bad boy with a tragic misunderstanding thing down pat. Swipe. The book was snatched from my hands. Ms. Diaz was glaring down at me, fuming. Jacob Miller. Getting bold, are we? Reading novels in my class? Confiscated. You can have it back when you graduate. Tears instantly welled in my eyes. I couldn't. What if my sister and I didn't live to see graduation? Ms. Diaz sneered. Don't even start with the waterworks. Get out. Go stand in the hall. I trudged toward the door, head hanging low. Suddenly, a cool, quiet voice spoke up from behind me. I'm sorry, Ms. Diaz, she said softly. I lent him the book. Serafina shot a quick glance at me before lowering her head. Can I have it back, please? 2 minutes later, Serafina and I were standing together in the hallway. And no, we did not get the book back. The sun was warm, and a gentle breeze made me feel sleepy. I scratched my head awkwardly. Why'd you help me? And say the book was yours? Serafina rolled her eyes. I was tired of sitting, wanted to stand for a while. Okay, the heroine's thought processes were clearly beyond the grasp of a minor character like me. The rich scent of cinnamon floated up from the courtyard below. My eyes lit up. I pointed to the bakery truck parked near the entrance. Hey, see that? They're selling cinnamon rolls. We should get some later. My mom's cinnamon rolls are legendary, and I can tell you, these are close second. You should try making them at home sometime. I was chattering away excitedly, but when I turned to look at Serafina, her expression was desolate. She was a million miles away. I froze, remembering her family situation. I lightly slapped my own face. Moron, way to stick your foot in your mouth. I quickly backpedaled. No, forget making them at home. Just come over to my place. You're so skinny, my mom would love to fatten you up. She won't mind an extra mouth to feed. Serafina's eyes shifted, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something. I watched her, full of anticipation. Say yes. If you eat my mom's cinnamon rolls, you can't let the hero get revenge on me later. She started, hesitating. I nodded encouragingly. Spit it out. Say it loud and proud. Suddenly, the classroom door flew open. Ms. Diaz jabbed her finger at my forehead and let me have it. Are you two having a party out here? Do you think this is a coffee shop? A park? Of all the times. Seriously? After standing in the hall for the rest of the period, we were sentenced to sweeping up leaves in the courtyard for the rest of the morning. But ever the genius, I didn't forget my mission. I managed to sneak away and buy 2 big boxes of warm cinnamon rolls. I held one up in each hand, showing them off to Serafina. So, you coming? Guaranteed delicious. Serafina's eyes were deep and dark, like any emotion that fell into them would sink and disappear forever. But for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a flicker of a smile. Still, she refused. She pressed her lips together. I'm sorry. I can't be home too late. I sighed. Fine. Dejected, I slumped back at my desk. Just then, my sister walked by. She heard the exchange and sneered. TCH, can't be home too late? Are you in kindergarten? Need big sister to hold your hand on the way home. This time, before Serafina could even react, I shot up from my seat. Megan, what is wrong with you? My sister looked completely baffled. What? What did I say? I gritted my teeth. Don't you know that she? I pointed at Serafina, but the words wouldn't come. I couldn't just blurt out what I'd read in the book. They'd ship me off to a psych ward. Besides, it was Serafina's story to tell, not mine. Finally, after stammering for a moment, I burst into theatrical tears. Don't you know she isn't a kindergartner? She's a high school student, just like us. It was powerful. I just wasn't sure what it was powerful for. Serafina was silent. My sister was stunned. The world went quiet. On the way home, my sister scratched her cheek, looking puzzled. Jacob, I don't know, you've been acting weird all day. Especially the way you keep defending that girl. Something's not right with you. I frowned. And you? It's like you get hives if you don't pick a fight with her. My sister narrowed her eyes, thinking, I don't know what it is. The second I see her, I just want to slap her. Sis, I said gravely, you're going through early onset menopause. She frowned. That's impossible. I'm 17. Her beautiful face contorted in horror. I pressed my advantage. Why not? Everyone's body is different. Sis, you have to control your emotions. Be strict with yourself. Otherwise, you'll get premature dementia. Her eyes widened. For real? Absolutely, I said. Would your own brother lie to you? She fell silent, lost in deep thought. The next time we saw Serafina, Megan's attitude was remarkably better. At least she wasn't dripping with sarcasm anymore. During gym class, I seized the opportunity to pair them up for badminton. I pulled my sister aside and whispered, "Sis, you're an amazing player. Serafina's new. She doesn't know anyone. If you take her under your wing, she'll totally worship you." Megan's ego instantly inflated. "Okay," she said, looking smug. "Watch and learn." Then I pulled Serafina aside. "Hey, deskmate, you know my sister. She's, had a tough time, you know? Not the sharpest tool in the shed. I worry about her. Can you just look out for her?" Serafina nodded seriously. "Yeah, I get it." Relieved, I went to use the restroom. But when I came back, I saw my sister and Serafina had collided and were both on the ground. I was gone for 1 minute. Speechless, I rushed over to Serafina. "Sarah, are you okay?" From behind me, my sister grumbled, "Jacob." I skidded to a halt, spun around, and helped Megan up. "Sis, are you okay? I was so worried." Megan huffed. "Oomph. Ungrateful little brat. That's more like it." She leaned on me to stand up, her brow furrowed. She actually looked like she was in pain. I looked down at her leg for a cut. Nothing. Not a scratch. I gave my sister a disbelieving look, but her expression of agony and grievance seemed completely genuine. Must be an internal injury, I thought. I started helping Megan walk, planning to call someone over to help Serafina. But just then, a figure sprinted past us. I froze. I recognized him. Chad Peterson, the hero of the book. The guy who grew up in the same orphanage as Serafina. And today was their long-awaited reunion. Chad pushed through the small crowd and knelt. "Don't move," he said. "Let me see if any bones are broken." But before he could even touch Serafina's leg, she shot up from the ground with a jolt, moving with an agility that showed no sign of injury. Serafina took 2 steps back. "I'm fine." Chad stared, dumbfounded. "Fine? You were sitting on the ground for 5 minutes." His eyes darted to my whining sister, then back to the innocent-looking Serafina. Realization dawned. "What a drama queen," he muttered. He turned his attention to my sister. "What about you? If a bone is out of place, don't try to tough it out. We should get to the nurse's office." Chad walked over and inspected Megan's leg. After a long moment, he asked, puzzled, "Where's the cut?" He stood up straight. He understood. 2 drama queens, he declared. Nevertheless, at my sister's dramatic insistence, we escorted her, and by extension, Serafina, to the nurse's office. The school nurse spent 5 minutes with a magnifying glass, sweating, before finally finding a minuscule scrape. She reluctantly handed over 2 Band-Aids. Watching my sister's over-the-top performance, I thought for a moment and said, "Sarah, since you're here, you should get checked out too. You might have an internal injury." Serafina shook her head, her voice catching slightly. "It's okay. I'm used to getting hurt." I froze, my mind flashing back to her story. Hands beaten raw by cruel caretakers at the orphanage, punished for the smallest mistakes at her adoptive home. It was heartbreaking. My own heart clenched in sympathy. But the next second, my sister stomped her foot and shot up. "You liar. Stop faking it." And then everyone in the room heard a distinct crack of a joint popping out of place. Megan's face went white. She sucked in a sharp breath and collapsed back on the cot. I think I really sprained my ankle this time," she whimpered. The nurse, her face a mask of complex emotions, prescribed her 2 cans of pain-relieving spray. Chad Peterson was laughing his head off. In the middle of his fit, his eyes fell on Serafina's face, and his expression turned to one of confusion. "Wait a second. Serafina, have we met before?" He suddenly slapped the table and took 2 steps closer. "I remember. It's you. Holy crap, Serafina. You're actually alive." In his excitement, he kicked the chair my sister was sitting on clean out from under her. Amid a chorus of shocked gasps, Megan tumbled to the floor, clutching her leg, completely bewildered. Chad's face went pale. "Nurse," he wheezed. "Nurse, quick. I think my foot is—" The nurse looked utterly defeated. What a productive day at the office. No one was leaving empty-handed. When we left the nurse's office, Serafina and I were in the lead, each carrying a bag of medical supplies. My sister and Chad, one with a sprained left foot and the other with a sprained right, were a good distance behind us, hobbling together like a mismatched human crutch. They even started chanting a cadence. Left foot, right foot, 1-2-1, 1-2-1. It was only then that my brain finally processed the chaotic scene. This grand reunion of the hero and heroine was not what I expected. "Did you and Chad Peterson know each other before?" I asked Serafina curiously. She gave a small nod. "We came from the same orphanage." I was speechless. "And that's it? Where's the unbreakable bond between the hero and heroine?" Under my intense, probing gaze, Serafina thought for another moment, a hint of nostalgia in her eyes. He was the leader of the kids back then, always causing trouble, stealing food from the kitchen. I never joined in. She paused, then summed it up in one sentence. He thought I was a mute because I never talked. I thought he was a troglodyte because he had no brain. My jaw dropped. So much for mutual salvation. This wasn't the script I read. Serafina turned her head and glanced at me. You seem really interested in my past, she said, a little suspiciously. No, just curious, I replied, laughing awkwardly. But she didn't look convinced. She leaned in closer. Really? That beautiful face filled my vision, getting bigger and bigger. My heart skipped a beat. Before I could figure out how to respond, my sister shrieked from behind us. Jacob, get away from that psycho. Get away. At the same time, we heard a short yelp from Chad. Whoa, why didn't you jump? Ah. A loud crash echoed behind us. I slowly turned my head to see my sister and Chad in a tangled heap on the pavement, unable to get up. After that skirmish, their injuries were even worse. Chad, trying to look cool, gritted his teeth and waved us off before limping away on his own. I helped my sister make the slow, painful journey home. Along the way, Megan was lost in thought for a long time before finally speaking. Jacob, don't you think I've been having a lot of bad luck lately? Yeah, that's life, I said dismissively. No, not just normal bad luck, she pouted. I think it all started when you became desk mates with that Serafina girl. I wasn't really listening, just mumbling nonsense. Life's a roller coaster, man. It is what it is. Jacob, my sister snapped. My gaze sharpened. Megan, that's not right, I said sternly. You can't just bully Serafina because she came from an orphanage. And calling her a jinx? A bad luck charm? That's too far. I'm really disappointed in you. My sister looked stunned for a second. Did I say that? She thought about it, then guilt washed over her face. You're right, Jacob. I'm sorry. I was being so narrow-minded. I'm glad you called me out. It won't happen again. I nodded, satisfied. Just as I helped her around a corner, we saw a familiar figure standing under a streetlight. Serafina. I jumped back a step, yanking my sister with me. She was about to yelp, but I slapped a hand over her mouth just in time. Sure. She got the message and nodded. Together, we peeked around the corner of the building. We saw that Serafina wasn't alone. A short, middle-aged woman was with her. This had to be her adoptive mother. The woman was holding a photograph, her face contorted with rage. I spent so much money on you. I gave you food, a roof over your head, and you go and hang out with this kind of trash. Let me tell you, if you dare pull any shameless stunts, you can forget about school. My stomach dropped. I couldn't see the photo clearly, but I could guess it was of us. The woman raised her hand and slapped the photo against Serafina's face. The sharp edge of the print cut a thin, red line across her cheek. Serafina didn't move. Her head was bowed, her face hidden in the shadows, her expression unreadable. But I felt a wave of second-hand anguish, a tightness in my own chest that made it hard to breathe. The woman, still fuming, shrieked, "Get on your knees." But Serafina stood her ground, stubborn. The woman's finger trembled as she pointed it in Serafina's face. Fine. You won't listen to a word I say anymore, will you? I never should have adopted a little wolf like you. You just wait. I'll find every single person in this picture, and I'll have their parents teach them a lesson. Serafina, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke, her voice trembling. A second later, she slowly knelt. The old streetlight flickered twice. In its stark, white light, she knelt with a sense of humiliation and defiance, like a single plum blossom blooming in a blizzard. I won't see any of them again, she bit out. My sister, with her fiery temper, was stomping her foot in fury. She shoved me aside, ready to charge in. What is wrong with that woman? Jacob, you wait here. I'm going to go give her a piece of my mind. I grab her arm, trying my best to stay calm. Don't be impulsive. Megan realized it too, and stopped. This wasn't something we could solve by just rushing in. If we couldn't help Serafina break free for good, our reckless actions now would just become another weapon used against her later. A short distance away, the woman seemed to have vented all her anger. She and Serafina walked off, one in front of the other. We need a long-term strategy, I said. A solid plan. And then, I trailed off as I turned back to my sister. Her face was pale, her lower lip caught between her teeth. I was startled. You don't have to be that mad. My sister managed a weak, pained smile that looked worse than crying. Her voice shook. Jake, when I got angry just now, I think I put my weight on the wrong foot. I was speechless. The chaotic day finally ended with me half-carrying my screaming sister home. In the middle of the night, my sister, who I thought was sound asleep, suddenly shot bolt upright in bed. Wait a minute. She hopped on one foot to my bedroom door and started banging on it. Thump, thump, thump. That's not right, she yelled. I didn't even know Serafina was from an orphanage. How could I have discriminated against her? How could I have called her a jinx? Jacob, get out here and explain yourself. I just rolled over and pulled the covers tighter over my head. Serafina was definitely colder to us after that. She was still as quiet and reserved as before, but I could feel the subtle difference. The way her lips were pressed together just a little bit tighter, the way her gaze was more guarded. I found this fascinating and observed her for a while, until my staring made her so uncomfortable she started writing C for every answer on her quiz. That's when I gave my sister the signal. Megan strode over, all elegance and attitude. Before Serafina could react, she tilted her chin up with one hand, then gestured with her head toward the two academic buildings outside the window. She sneered. See those two buildings? My sister raised an eyebrow. We were going to try and hang out with you like normal people, but all we got was the cold shoulder. So fine. Cards on the table. No more pretending. She pointed again. Those two buildings? The Miller family donated them. My name and my brother's are engraved on the railings up on the roof. You can go check tomorrow morning before the janitors get there, if you don't believe me. After my sister's long-winded introduction to our family's wealth, she tilted her head back, looked down her nose at Serafina with utter disdain, and said, "Get it now? You've messed with the wrong people." I silently covered my face with my hands. My sister's acting was atrocious. The kind of bad that would get you canceled on day one if you try to make it in Hollywood. But as terrible as it was, it worked. I could see Serafina visibly relax, the tension leaving her shoulders. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I heard her say, "You two saw what happened last night, didn't you?" I shot up from my seat like a rocket. No, we didn't. Okay, my acting was just as bad as my sister's. I sighed. All right, fine. We saw. I'm sorry. We didn't mean to spy. And I promise, we weren't laughing at you or anything. We just wanted to see if we could help. Serafina looked a little stunned, a bit lost on how to react. Finally, she just said a dry, "It's okay." My eyes lit up. I grabbed her by the shoulders. "So, do you want to get away from that house? We've come up with a foolproof plan. We can definitely help you." Maybe it was the fire in my eyes, or maybe it was the warmth seeping through her shirt from my hands, but for some reason, Serafina found herself wanting to believe me. "Okay," she said. That evening, my sister and Chad hid in the shadows outside the school gate, on lookout. I sat next to Serafina, taking notes. "Okay, say it again. What does she hate the most?" I asked. She pursed her lips. "Bad grades, coming home late, locking my bedroom door, chatting for more than 10 minutes. And," Serafina paused, then added another one, her cheeks flushing pink. "Dating." I didn't question it. I just looked down at my little notebook and circled dating. "Perfect," I nodded. "This is the one." I slung an arm over Serafina's shoulder and started walking her toward the school gate. Her whole body went rigid. I paused, realizing what I'd just done. The night was dark and silent, and the only sound was our two breaths, tangling together intimately. Okay, this was a little bit charged. The short walk to the gate felt like miles. I felt more and more awkward with every step. The second we stepped outside, my sister let out a piercing shriek from the darkness. "Jacob Miller, where do you think you're putting your hands? This genius." She was going to blow our cover. I looked toward the sound of her voice, but the first person I saw was Serafina's adoptive mother, storming toward us. She didn't seem to have been affected by my sister's yelling at all. Plan success. The next moment, Serafina grabbed my hand in a panic. I didn't have time to think. I just pulled her along and started running. We had just rounded a corner when my sister and Chad caught up to us. Megan was still shouting, "Jacob, is this right? Is this right? Did you get her consent before you held her hand? Do you have any idea what this behavior is called?" Serafina, her face bright red, cut her off. "Actually, I was the one who grabbed his hand." That only made my sister yell louder. If Chad hadn't finally had enough and clamped a hand over her mouth, the entire neighborhood would have been woken up by her fire alarm screaming. Later that night, during our debrief, my sister was still throwing shade at Serafina, saying she had terrible taste in guys and was practically blind. I was speechless. We put Serafina up in the guest room for the night. The next morning, she went with us to school. As I predicted, that woman was already waiting in Ms. Diaz's office. Serafina told me her name was Laura Vance. The moment Laura saw me, her eyes lit up with fury, and she charged. You're the bastard who corrupted my Sarah. You come here. What kind of parents raised you to be such a degenerate at your age?" The next second, she grabbed my collar and gave me a shove. I went with the momentum, collapsing dramatically to the floor. I clutched my leg and let out a pained cry. "Ack, my leg. It's broken. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." My sister immediately dropped to her knees beside me, tears welling in her eyes as she shook my shoulders. "My brother. Don't you die on me. Don't die. It was still early, and the only other person in the office was the long-suffering Ms. Diaz. She knew a little about Serafina's home life, and now, watching our performance, she had a moment of divine inspiration. Oh my goodness. Mr. Miller, are you hurt? I'll have someone from the Miller estate come pick you up at once. Of course, this has nothing to do with the school. Please, don't let your family's anger fall on us. We'll let Ms. Vance's mother compensate you. Personally, I exploded. What do you mean it has nothing to do with you? I pointed at my leg. I'm telling you, if anything happens to my leg, my family is pulling every cent of funding we've ever given this school. And you, I said, turning to Laura Vance, Sarah, I will make it so that not a single high school in this country will dare to accept you. Laura Vance's raised hand froze in midair. She stammered, young master, the Miller family, donations. Her face went rigid as the pieces clicked into place. She forced a stiff, sycophantic laugh. A misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. I barely even touched him. How could his leg possibly be broken? I smirked. That's not for you to decide. Laura's face, which had been a mask of fury, was now choked with impotent rage. Her hands trembled. You, she sputtered. You're all ganging up to frame me. My sister, Megan, dramatically clapped a hand over her mouth and gasped. Ma'am, she said, her voice dripping with mock concern. You can say what you want, but you can't just make things up. This office has security cameras, you know? It was clear as day. You pushed my brother. Seeing the tide turn against her, Laura started shouting desperately. Call the police. I want to call the police. Suddenly, Serafina, who had been silent this whole time, spoke up. Mom, she said, that's enough. Laura froze. Serafina hadn't called her that in a very, very long time. For years now, their interactions have been defined by Laura's hysterics and Serafina's stoic silence, a far cry from the simple warmth of their early days. Serafina's voice was completely flat, as if she were discussing something trivial. I'm 18 now. Your legal guardianship over me has ended. Who I choose as my friends is my own business. It had always been Laura who needed Serafina, never the other way around. A dead silence spread through the small office. Laura's expression shifted from disbelief to anger, and finally settled into a profound weariness. The woman who had been radiating rage just moments before seemed to shrink. Her shoulders slumped. She bent over, tears tracing the fine lines around her eyes like rivers carving through a canyon. Why won't you ever listen? She sobbed. Everything I do is for your own good. Sarah, why can't you understand that? Serafina watched her. You got me out of the orphanage, she said softly, and I was once very grateful for that. But now, if you really want what's best for me, please just let me go. The sounds of students chattering and laughing began to drift in from the hallway as they headed to class. Laura seemed to be lost in a memory for a moment, her expression vacant. Finally, she turned her back and walked away. Ms. Diaz picked up a stack of papers from her desk, her tone uncharacteristically gentle. Putting on a whole soap opera for me this early in the morning, you kids. She sighed. Look, you're all still young. Even if it feels like you're facing a mountain right now, you'll get over it eventually. And when you look back, it'll all seem like nothing. She patted Serafina's shoulder and walked out. Now, it was just us in the office. I watched Serafina wearily rub the bridge of her nose. I knew she must be feeling awful right now. Suddenly, she took a step closer to me. Jake, she asked, can I lean on you for a second? Her movements were hesitant as she rested her head on my shoulder. I got it. She just needed someone to lean on. So I raised my arms and pulled her into a proper hug, hoping to offer some real comfort. My sister immediately lost it. She stood in front of us, glaring at her watch. 30 seconds. You've been hugging for 30 seconds. Okay, that's enough. Break it up. A small, faint smile touched Serafina's lips as she pulled away. She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. I'm so sorry, Jake. And thank you. Hey, don't even mention it, I said. That's what friends are for. You ever need anything, you just say the word. No need to be all formal. I gave her a huge grin, then started humming a tune as I left, my sister chattering away at my side. I had no idea that Serafina was watching me go, her dark eyes swirling with an emotion I couldn't have named. After a long moment, she whispered to the empty room, friends? Just friends. After midterms, my sister, against all odds, ranked first in our class. I was terrified. While Megan's grades were always decent, in the original story, Serafina Vance had never dropped from the #1 spot after transferring to our high school. Right now, Serafina was standing in front of the ranking board, a frown creasing her brow. I nervously sidled up to her, trying to make small talk. Hey, nice weather we're having, right? It is, Serafina replied, but it's still been a little chilly lately. You. My heart leaped into my throat. I immediately bowed a perfect 90 degrees in a smooth, practiced apology. I'm so sorry. It was my sister. She totally cheated. I'll go give her a piece of my mind right now. Serafina stared at me, bewildered. I was going to say, she continued, it's getting colder. You two should dress warmer so you don't catch a cold. Oh, I stood there, frozen. So it wasn't the weather's getting colder. It's time for the Miller family to go bankrupt. After all, the second I got home, I grabbed my sister by the collar. Spill it. How did you get first place? And whoever you are, get out of my sister's body right now. She rolled her eyes. I cheated. My vision went dark. Holy crap, she actually did it. Why in the world would you cheat your way into first place? I demanded. My sister replied. Jake, don't you feel like Serafina is still wound super tight, even after getting away from her adoptive mom? I was just trying to show her, in a practical way, that it's not the end of the world if you're not number one for once. I paused. I hadn't expected my sister to be so thoughtful. I had misjudged her. She smiled sweetly and pulled a shipping box out from behind her back. Besides, Mom said if I got first place, she'd buy me the new iPhone. I stared at her deadpan. Okay, that was your real motive, wasn't it? The rest of senior year passed without much excitement. Then, just before finals, a bombshell dropped that rocked the entire school. Chad Peterson was on the athletic field, asking a girl out with a love letter. Chad Peterson, asking someone out. Who? It couldn't be Serafina, could it? I swallowed the strange, sour feeling in my gut and craned my neck to see. Not far away, a girl tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear and accepted a red envelope from Chad. So young, so romantic. Wait a second. That girl looks a lot like my sister. Oh God, it is my sister. Please don't let Serafina see this. I spun around, frantically searching for Serafina, only to find her already standing at the window, looking down. Crap, she saw. Her gaze lingered on the pair for only a second before drifting off toward the small woods in the distance. Oh crap, she's already figuring out where to bury my sister. I started pacing in a panic. Megan, I worked so hard to maintain the fragile peace between you and the female lead, and you turn around and steal the male lead? Are you insane? Whatever. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and walked over to Serafina. When she saw me approach, a small smile appeared on her face. Jake, she said, I just saw on the field. I cut her off immediately. A misunderstanding. It's a huge misunderstanding. My sister's illiterate. She probably thought it was a summons to a duel or something. Man, what a mess, right? Serafina looked at me, completely speechless. Illiterate? I nodded vigorously. Yep, totally. She thought for a moment, a strange expression on her face. That sounds pretty serious. You should probably take her to a doctor. When I found my sister, I was fuming. Did you say yes to him? I hissed. Her cheeks flushed. Of course not. We're still in high school. We have to focus on our studies first. I rolled my eyes. She was so flustered she was stuttering and still trying to act prim and proper. She sniffed. Besides, I'm the older sister. I have to set a good example for you about not dating. I let out a cold laugh, about to fire back a sarcastic comment when Serafina's face flashed in my mind. Dating? Me? That was a question worth considering. I stroked my chin, falling into a strange, pensive silence, ignoring my sister completely. I walked into my room to contemplate my life. After graduation, the first thing I did was go home and sleep for an entire day. When I woke up in the evening, I saw a message from Serafina. Sarah, where are you? Weren't we supposed to see a movie tonight? I threw off my blankets and bolted out the door. Megan, why didn't you wake me up? I yelled. My sister emerged from her room, rubbing her eyes. Huh? Wake you for what? How long was I asleep? What day is it? Forget it. My sister was even less reliable than I was. I sprinted to the movie theater. Don't rush, Serafina said, calming me down. The movie doesn't start for a little while. It's not about the movie, it's about wanting to see you. The word spun around in my head, but didn't make it out. After I caught my breath, I realized something was off. It was the middle of summer, but Serafina was wearing a high-collar dress, and I spotted a small, dark bruise peeking out from her neckline. What happened? I reached out and started to unbutton the collar of her dress. Serafina's voice trembled. Jake! I ignored her and pulled the collar open. Sure enough, hidden by the fabric, was a long red mark, like a rope burn. My heart ached. I gently touched it. Serafina's eyelashes fluttered at my touch. Does it hurt? I asked. Did someone give you trouble? Tell me who it was. I swear I'll make them pay. She shook her head. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I frowned, glaring at her. She bit her lip, hesitating before finally saying, It was your sister. What? My sister? I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. After finals, she explained, "Your sister stopped me on my way home." Serafina went on to tell me that Megan, not wanting to see her fall into a pit of fire, had given her a protective jade amulet, but the cord got tangled in her zipper, leaving the mark on her neck. I didn't hear a word of it. My mind was screaming one thing. "Megan, you tried to strangle the female lead?" I looked up at the sky in despair. I wanted to get on my knees and beg her to stop trying to get herself killed, but I had a feeling that if I knelt, she'd just find a way to do it faster. At this point, there was only one thing I could do. I stammered, trying to create a cover story. "Actually, it's because my sister found out that I like you. She's not mad at you. She's mad at me." Serafina's eyes shot up to meet mine. "Really?" she asked. I nodded, feeling like I was facing a firing squad. It wasn't entirely a lie, though. After some serious soul-searching, I'd realized that I had, somewhere along the way, developed feelings for Serafina that I shouldn't have. As the male side character, I had finally walked the sacrilegious path of coveting the female lead. I was doomed, but in the next second, Serafina threw herself into my arms. She snuggled against my chest. "I like you too, Jake Miller," she whispered. "I've liked you for a long, long time." In that instant, it felt like all the fireworks in the world were exploding right before my eyes. I dazedly wrapped my arms around Serafina. My brilliant, dazzling first love was beginning. After the final test scores came out, the four of us spent a whole day huddled together, figuring out college applications. In the end, Serafina chose a top-tier engineering school. Chad got into a prestigious university on the East Coast, and my sister and I picked a good school, just a town over from his. All the schools were close enough to each other. When we went back to Northgate to pick up our transcripts, Ms. Diaz handed me a book with a smile. I'd almost forgotten about the novel I'd found, which I'd left with her. When I opened it this time, the contents had completely changed. All the cheesy, dramatic plot points were gone. In their place was the story we had actually lived, a story called youth. Or perhaps a story called fate. Fate never truly binds anyone. The real future is something we have to write for ourselves. I turned to the last page. The long story had come to an end. The conclusion was a single sentence. For the rest of his days, may Jacob always find warmth at his table and peace in his heart.